Look, I know you've been thinking it too. The boiler room we all know and love is dead. What started as a staple in our pre-gaming ritual has turned into these commercial and unappealing sets that just don't hit the same. Remember when it made us feel a little voyeuristic? Like we were peeking into an exclusive once-in-a-lifetime party? We were literally spying on everyone. The DJ, the ravers, even the staff, and we couldn't look away. The artists would show off their musical prowess, bringing their unique skills, taste, and charisma that just delighted us. But now, with so much content to choose from, the brand has completely lost its spark. They've distanced themselves from what made them special in the first place. Both the music curation and in-person events have gone downhill as the company keeps pushing to reach wider and wider audiences, all while turning a blind eye to the people that helped them become successful in the first place. And honestly, not even money can save them from self-imploding at this point. So how did we get here? First, let's talk about the guy behind it all, Blaise Belleville. Belleville isn't exactly your typical underground music founder. We're talking about someone who went to the same boarding school as Kate Middleton and can trace his lineage back to William the Conqueror. But here's the thing, he knew how to hustle. Get this, right out of high school, he organizes festivals for minors. Not long after, he starts an online magazine called Platform trying to connect brands with youth culture. So by his early 20s, the guy already had serious connections in the music world. That type of networking would then prove crucial for his newest project. Fast forward to spring 2010. Belleville's converting this rundown warehouse into artist studios when his friend Tristan needs to record a mixtape for Platform. With streaming starting to blow up across London's music scene, Belleville sees an opportunity. In a cramped utility space, literally called the boiler room, he duct tapes a webcam to the wall and hits record. What happened next changed everything. This wasn't just another bedroom DJ stream that we were used to seeing. For the first time, viewers could actually see an intimate party unfolding in real time. The crowd's genuine reactions, the artist's focus, the energy building and releasing. It was fresh, authentic, and completely addictive. The format was deceptively simple but revolutionary. Place a fixed camera in a small room, invite a talented DJ, pack it with music lovers, and just let the magic happen organically. And it worked. Within weeks, Boiler Room became massively popular on the interwebs. Their first high-profile guest? Theo Parrish, this genre-defying legend from Detroit. Then, like clockwork, they started landing Subtract, James Blake, Ben UFO, and Jamie XX, all before their first anniversary. When they decided to test the format in Berlin's techno scene, it worked flawlessly there too, and the market was validated. Of course, not every set was gold. Diplo's 2011 performance became legendary for all the wrong reasons. Belleville later admitted it was the most awful set ever, describing it as bad dubstep from someone who thought he was in Vegas. The audience's reaction was crystal clear. Mainstream wasn't the way to go. This moment cemented what would be Boiler Room's main business tactic. While superstar DJs were limited, underground talent was endless, meaning unlimited growth potential. Or so they thought. Red Bull became their first major sponsor, followed by Umbro, Red Stripe, Ray-Ban, and the now defunct Top Man. The injection of corporate money shifted everything. Parties grew larger, tickets became available to anyone willing to pay, and the intimate vibe began to vanish. Seeing all this hype, a venture capital firm offered to buy it. Even Boiler Room's own Gabriel Zlatan called it the Uber of the music world due to its huge disruptive effect, and knew that backlash was pretty much guaranteed. For the time being, praise for the project was everywhere. In 2014, Rolling Stone declared Blaise and Tristan as some of the most influential people in electronic dance music. But frankly, the limelight was more on the stars of the show, the artists. Doing a Boiler Room became a huge deal, pretty much like headlining a festival, and success was practically assured.
She's the Radio 1 resident who went viral after one of the most talked about Boiler Room sessions of recent times. Raised on a diet of jungle and footwork, she was named Breakthrough DJ of the Year in 2019 by both Mixmag and DJ Mag. And she's taken her trademark high-speed, low-end sound everywhere from the Brixton Electric to the Panorama Bar in Berlin. Please welcome, for a 160 BPM workout, Sherelle.
All of a sudden, DJs were doing the impossible to try to score a set with Boiler Room.
Introducing the True Music Fund, Boiler Room and Ballantyne's new initiative supporting the global underground.
My name
True
is
Music
George
Fund
Hall.
offers
I'm in my
financial
third year of study
investment.
at
Hey, what's
Midfield
up?
Music
My name's
College.
Tasha Hastings and this is my
But as the company consolidated itself in the industry, not all things were running smoothly behind the scenes. Some veterans started getting angry as Boiler Room revealed secrets from the underground, and instead of choosing silence or peace, Blaze escalated it. I don't really give a fuck what you think, you know? You're just being an old school like ravehead who was lucky enough to go for that stuff. And why would you not want good music to be appreciated by as wide of an audience as possible? Sure, Boiler Room's mission back then was noble on paper, but the approach? Not so much. As staff, ravers, and talent kept voicing their dissatisfaction with various issues, the PR team also started to absorb the same dismissive tone. Maybe that was done involuntarily, but that was enough to create the first rupture within the community. One guy expressed his frustration over an event that quickly became the most liked post, implicitly showing that others were right there with him. But complaints were really their biggest weakness. Nothing has been as disruptive as having that camera placed in the heart of the party. The one thing that had made it viral in the first place was contributing to their dip in popularity. Welcome to the clout era. People trying to get their look at me moments drawing attention to themselves instead of just enjoying the experience. When people know that they're being filmed, they go one of two ways. Either they overperform with a look at me attitude or get so self-conscious that they completely shut down. The effect got so intense that a journalist actually documented how he was able to sneak behind the DJ booth for his 5 minutes of fame. And here's the kicker, Boiler Room didn't see this as a problem. Instead, they incentivized it. It's golden entertainment for those watching at home, right? And the more outrageous, the better. Now, this will date me, but remember Do It for the Vine? It still applies here. Naturally, this started driving away the people who were generally there for the music. They felt like outsiders at their own scene. Now, I know that this is not exclusive to Boiler Room, but if you're at a place where the main focus is not the music or the community, then is it actually a rave anymore? Or is it just a franchise? Because everything points to that conclusion. As demand increased, independent raves could slap the Boiler Room logo behind their decks for automatic prestige, all for a hefty fee. The company got nicknamed the TED Talks of Raves, and suddenly anyone who could afford it could host their very own Boiler Room. Basically, a pay-to-play framework. And this had predictable results. Oversold venues became way too common. In Seoul, a show was cancelled a mere few minutes before Peggy Goo was set to perform, as rivers of people cramped into each other while others presented signs of overheating. And just a month after, Disclosure set got shut down 5 minutes in because a huge crowd was becoming a safety hazard.
So London, if you don't mind, I'm gonna do my thing real quick. Disclosure, can I do my thing one time?
It's not true.
And it wasn't just patrons that were feeling neglected. There's been accounts of Boiler Room not paying talent at all, and instead just rewarding them with exposure. But then a series of other situations proved to be a turning point that diluted a big chunk of the trust that Boiler Room had created through the years. In 2017, they released a documentary about nightlife in Scotland that included an edit they regret several years later. The words "white man" had been cut out of local DJ Sarah Wild's interview. And boy, when the internet found out, it triggered a huge chain reaction. In pure Boiler Room fashion, they condescendingly responded that keeping those words in the video would set off political repercussions. And just a week after that mess, they were involved in another scandal at the Notting Hill Festival. It received tremendous backlash, as many thought that Boiler Room had no business being part of an event celebrating Caribbean culture. People argued that they were just exploiting marginalized communities for profit and taking up space that should have gone to minorities. And then during the pandemic, Boiler Room received one of the most generous COVID relief grants ever. Why would a profitable company get £791,000 while the whole industry was shut down and many local artists were barely scraping by? Yeah, people weren't particularly happy about that one either. But by this point, the writing was on the wall. All these controversies and missteps were adding up and the community was losing faith.
From 2012 to 2020, Boiler Room had a track record of not really paying artists, but it's really important to think about who these corporations are owned by, that Boiler Room is literally owned by the elite of the elite, by venture capitalists, and by, very rich, young white entrepreneurs. And that ultimately they're the people who benefit from situations like this.
With waning support, there was only one to blame: Boiler Room itself. Their very own relentless push for growth had become their Achilles heel. Not only were many sets getting lost in an ocean of content, but the musical curation just wasn't as good as it used to be. They began to prioritize quantity over quality, and it showed. Before you knew it, the comment section was targeting artists as the butt of the joke, while other events started leaving audiences scratching their heads due to unusual music choices. It's one thing to have a few things slipping through the cracks, but it felt like this was becoming the new normal, and people were definitely noticing. Remember when John Summit tweeted this? That was in response to Rebecca Black's Boiler Room performance. Yeah, that Rebecca Black. The tweet sent the entire dance music community on X into a complete frenzy, some defending Rebecca while others stood by John's side. But finally, somebody with a big platform was saying the quiet part out loud. Boiler Room sets weren't really about the music anymore. The whole thing had morphed from these cheeky and spontaneous streams into branded parties that suddenly everyone wanted to attend. But if that wasn't enough to prove the point, the icing on the cake was Boiler Room's recent sale to a new VC firm not too long ago. The transaction itself wasn't problematic, but its new owner sure was. And this wasn't the first time they'd received pushback about their investors either. One of its earliest backers used to be part of the Israeli Defense Forces during the Second Intifada. But as media outlets revealed, KKR, the new parent company, had way more direct ties to Israel, like investments in arms manufacturing, surveillance firms, and real estate projects in the occupied West Bank. Why Boiler Room? Just why? It's questions like these that really make you step back and look at the bigger picture. Was it always about the money? Because look at all those close calls they had with crowd safety. I'm sure organizers don't go like, oh, whoops, we issued more tickets than what the venue allows. Oh well, YOLO. I mean, even when their reputation is on the line, it seems like creating content still comes first. The recent parade of pop stars only makes it more obvious, with Kesha's performance being the peak of the entire craze. The sea of phones, all that manufactured hype. Don't get me wrong, I love Ty Sunderland, but him DJing for her while another guy applies lip gloss on her, that's just not it. It's true that Boiler Room might be growing in popularity and getting more eyeballs than ever, but they're rapidly antagonizing their core audience in the process. John Summit's comment only echoes this subtle shared feeling of worry about what's been happening to our industry as a whole. We're watching a new crowd take over our spaces. It's TikTokification, if you will. Look, I'm not against Boiler Room making more dough or leaving their mark on the scene. There is nothing wrong with growth, with evolving, with making profit. I mean, who doesn't want to be successful, right? And I get it, they have to keep their board happy with a constant stream of revenue. But by not connecting with a true audience anymore, they could quickly get lost in all the noise. And let's face it, the landscape has changed drastically since 2010, and the novelty has worn off. The space is so hyper-competitive right now that even DJs are bringing their own film crews to their sets now. Here's the thing though, ravers can be incredibly loyal. They come back to things that they share a strong emotional bond with. TikTokers? Not so much. These ephemeral beings just go where the trends take them. But not everything is lost here, and things could definitely be turned around. As long as Boiler Room refocuses on quality work, good music, and really acknowledges that they no longer serve an underground audience. Pretty much everything they touch either turns mainstream or was already mainstream to begin with. If only they'd stop being defensive when people criticize them and actually cut ties with companies like KKR, I think they could actually make it to the next decade. Yet let's not forget that true power lies within the community. Let's take this for what it is. Boiler Room is just another media company. It's not a true representation of party culture or a community anymore. It's not part of us. Ironically, one of Boiler Room's most watched episodes is still Sama Abdul Hadi's set, which was filmed in Palestine and has over 14 million views. In the end, we can always voice what's important to us. Now, Boiler Room is not the first company to navigate through growth. Many companies have already gone through that path, but they all handled it in their own unique way. EDC, for example, was able to grow into this massive company, but oddly, they still have one of the biggest fan bases out there that keep coming back for more. Click here if you want to see how they did it. My name's Chris, patrons in the description, and thanks so much for watching. See you around.